Thank you, Mihail, once again for coming here. So, to give you a quick brief about the podcast and the name of the podcast, so we are calling it the Wolf's Byte, Byte as in BYTE. So it's more relevant to technology, and we want to give the audience a bite of all the different perspectives of different product managers from around the globe, and what the technology is moving towards. As we know that. The last 2 years has been accelerating the digital transformation a lot, and we feel that there is so much in the market right now that it's easy to lose focus on what to what to steer clear on, and we would love to know your different perspective on the same. And to start with, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and what you do?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, and welcome on board. I'm Michael Kussmaul. I'm from Switzerland. I'm 46 years old, so I'm on the older side, I guess. I'm married to a lovely wife and have 2 kids growing. And now I'm a CTO of a marketing company here in Switzerland. We provide marketing as a service. And you might ask, why needs a marketing company a CTO? But it's, as you said, I mean, it's getting more and more technical. You need software expertise also in marketing because everything is digital, everything has to be measured, everything has to be is somewhere on the internet.
Definitely.
Back then, I studied computer science. When I studied computer science, Java was the new kid on the block, so everybody was keen to dig into Java. And I worked as a in several startups. So at the beginning, I was a developer, software developer, and then moved on to product management. It was my first job was basically in the telecom industry, telecom business.
Right.
And I was part of the team and also invested in that company. And what we did was like high performance and reliable services. I don't know if you still know it. It's called the short messaging service. It was like on the old
SMS. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you have SMS.
Yeah.
And we basically built services around that. So we made for like mass sending of SMS possible, for example, to alert people in an area. We also had emergency cell tower locations. So if someone calls 911 or like an emergency service, you could pinpoint the person where it is located. That's awesome. Installed everything on the telecom side. So back then it was really funny because there we were the new kids on the block because the technology in the telecom was really old technologies. I mean, you had Unix boxes. I'm not talking about Linux. It's really the old Unix boxes.
Even before
we were coming and installed Linux on our box on our side, and it was really fun. That's afterwards,
yeah. That's awesome. Go on.
Yeah. Then I had other startup ideas, and I made my own company. And there really I digged into a lot of different startup ideas in medical field. I built apps and services in banking, even in a fashion startup where we built like a new kind of fashion store.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, it's really cool. So I like to explore different fields. And to be honest, not all of the ideas fly. To be honest, I guess only about 10 or 20% even get more revenue in than out. So it was always a fun thing and a fun struggle and a fun experience. So I also am a developer of an iPhone app at the moment. It's called Map Out.
Okay.
It's an offline app.
Okay.
It's native iOS.
Okay. So what is it about?
On Google. Yeah, it's basically if you go hiking and you need a map, you can have Web Out with you. And it's basically an offline app. So even if you don't have cell coverage, you still have your map. You can search on it, you can hike on it, you can plan trips on it. And it's just like my side project at the moment. And
that's awesome.
It's really cool.
It's really cool.
There's a lot of technologies involved. And for example, our database with map data is 1.5 terabyte of data, which we process on a weekly basis. So it's really big data in some kind of things.
That's amazing.
For
that's
app
awesome.
development, yeah, it's really fun what you can do, and there you also learn what you can do on the cloud side and where you need your own server, because sometimes clouds can be the perfect fit, but sometimes it's too expensive, especially if you have more than a terabyte of data and
Yeah.
you need to process with a huge CPU power, then it gets very expensive at one point. So you really have to choose where's your horse. So you do it at home on your own server or on a cloud server. And in general, I do app development. Nowadays you call it full stack. So basically the back end and the
Yeah.
front end, HTML, now
All of
the
that.
focus a bit more. Yeah. So that's what I do at the moment, I guess.
That's really cool. You've got a Swiss knife sort of yourself with all the technologies and the industry experience with
Probably,
all the
yeah.
things going on. So since you've been working, I think you said SMS. So from like that time since SMS was introduced, and right now you are working as a CTO for a digital marketing company. So how do you say that product development and technology building and product building has evolved from bulk messaging to till now? How is it evolved? Like what kind of process do you follow now, and what's the difference between then and now, basically?
Yeah, obviously at the beginning, software development was like an engineering fashion. Like you build houses or bridges now then. You had to plan everything beforehand, and every missteps can produce errors you can't correct, especially like if you do like mission critical things on telco. You cannot do agile and then someone calls 911 and the service is down. So really there you have to be a bit more strict. And back then, of course, software was really strict in engineering fashion. So basically you planned very much and tried to build something. And of course it is then not so agile, it is more rigid. And also like the software early on was more attached to the hardware. Even in the telecom field, you develop for a specific machine which has these capabilities with all these interfaces for the SMS network and so on. So you really have, it's more like a mix. So you need to know the hardware, or you needed to know the hardware much more and build the software on it. Now hardware and software is much more detached, especially if you do like modern software development in web space. You don't even know what hardware you're running on, and you basically don't need to care. You just install it somewhere in the cloud, and you have enough CPU, you have enough RAM. You don't care where it's running, how it's running. So you really, it's now like a separation of software and hardware. It's going on, and so obviously the engineering part is now really shifting towards software alone. So you don't need to take care of the whole thing, and now. Yeah, of course, you see a lot more agile practices, which is more tailored to software engineering. So you can look.
What should be the focus now, Michael? So as you said, there are a lot of agile and there are strategies in product management and product development. So what do you suggest is the right approach for today's product builders, like people who CTOs and CEOs who want to build a product, or even like any company who want to get on to building a solution? So what should be the focus now? Like what should be a few things that they should keep in mind? Like as you said, we right now don't need to worry about the hardware, but what are the new challenges or new things to keep on mind?
I think the new trends a bit is more like a focus on the UX, so user experience. We see a lot that now, beforehand you could build services which are okay. So it's working and it worked, yeah. and it was not really great. So at the moment, I think the focus is really on the user experience. So you build it on the user journey and see what's the best way to do it. That's what we do now. But what we do in the future, I think what is still missing is a bit the business side. I think, the UX made a bit the shift. So you say you have this outside view. So you say, okay, what is our customers? What does my customer really wants? Mm-hmm. And how should I do it so the customer is happy? But you should not forget the business side, because at the end it's the revenue stream and how you are profitable. Right. And also, how can you make your product so it's a long term, so it is profitable on a long term. So you have to think of your business model so you can sustain it for several years, because it doesn't make sense if you make the customer happy, completely happy, but you lose money and you just need funding. So that's not the thing. And I see a lot of companies or also products that struggle in this regard. They have now great software, they're looking on the UX, they have great UX, but then if you say, okay, so how how is your product
Money.
sustainable? Or then you do, okay, yeah, when we have 1 million users, then we automatically get rich somehow. And that's probably not going to work. So I guess this one, this business side, should be more implemented.
Absolutely. I think focusing on, not keeping the balance between the software product and the marketing and the business, the revenue is something a lot of people are missing out these days. Even a lot of people invest more on the tech rather than, the branding and the business. And sometimes the other way around, they don't invest anything on technology and focus a lot more on branding and the marketing. So talking about the business part, so as you know, today there is a lot of new technologies coming up. We have Web3 boom going on, and the AI ML boom is still there, and then we have the metaverse, AR, VR. So these are distinctively different technologies. Web3 is blockchain, AR, VR is something totally different, and then we have AI and ML, which is also something but different technology in itself. So what do you think will be the main focus for current software companies to adapt, and where does this leave the normal software? By normal software, I'm talking web 2. Like we still see a lot of web apps, simple web apps, like a basic database directory app, or something that's very straightforward without all these applications. So how does this blend in with web 2, and where are we going? What's your point of view on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not the technology who will strive. So it's not like AI will succeed. It's always the product behind it. So it's also the niche. I mean, you can have something which is very strange and it is profitable because in that niche it's needed. And there, I mean, for AI, I mean, I can think of a bit. I mean, there are a lot of nice use cases, and that there's this. There are not two trends a bit. I mean, you have this massive AI stuff where you build like this image gen or DALL-E from OpenAI, where you basically say something and it paints a picture or generates text. I mean, for that you need so much resources. Only a big company can cope it, because the learning process needs so many resources. So most startups cannot compete in that space. But what you can do is the normal stuff, like classifiers, predictor stuff. So classifying something, that's still in the hand of smaller companies. So you can explore that. And for the big things like the image gen, you probably rely on big companies then to open it up and give it to you as a library at one point, but it's not happening because of privacy concerns at the moment.
That's true.
And for Web3, I mean, there I think it's a bit complicated because it's a trending topic, and we even have a client in that field. But I mean, I see that the problem there is a bit, you have like the two crypto sides always mangled together. I mean, you have at one point, you need a cryptocurrency or crypto stuff somehow to get the blockchain running. So you have automatically these investors or speculants who are only interested basically in getting rich or getting the currency. And then you have the other people who are basically using the actual product you build with web, like NFTs or smart contracts.
Right.
And you automatically have now two different kind of target groups which are competing. You have these speculants, investors, and the ones using your product. And that's a bit difficult to combine. So the best way there would be probably to do a service or like a product which basically appeals to both of them. Or you build a software development company for blockchains, and because everyone wants a Web3 application, and just build something there.
Right. So as a product owner, when do you take the decision, like, should I go with this tech, or should I do I really need this tech? That's really important, as when you start a project, right? Like as a product owner, do I need it? So how do you arrive at that decision as a product owner?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so easy. That's true. I mean, it's to be honest, I mean, there are a lot of stacks and APIs coming up, and you cannot be the master of all of them. I mean, I started like in iOS development. I mean, the API stack was very small. I mean, you could basically learn everything. But nowadays, I mean, you have thousands of different APIs from all kinds of things. I mean, you cannot never learn everything. So it's a bit difficult to judge what to choose. From my perspective, I like to choose like more open source projects. So if an API is really proprietary or even backed by like Facebook or like a big company,
Right.
I'm a bit reluctant because then I don't know what their goals are.
Yeah.
So you have to see. But of course, if you start like with HTML, I mean, then you have to choose a big framework like Angular or Vue or something which is backed by a big company usually. So yeah, it's not so easy to see. And then you also have to see the people you hire, what are they familiar with, and sometimes there's really a compromise. I mean, I also had the case that I'm more the Angular type, but someone coming in the team was more like from using another framework.
Yeah.
Then you have to make compromises, and
I understand.
at the end of the day, it's like that.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. So talking about challenges now. So what are some of the hardest moments as a product manager or a developer that you face in your career for so long? You must have had some tough situations in this context, and how do you handle them basically as a product owner? There are a lot of people, because being a product owner or a lead developer or a manager is very crucial, because you're managing your teams, your stakeholders, your investors, the resources, the team members. So you're kind of the center of the control. So being a CTO as well. So how do you handle that, and what are some of your hardest moments as a product owner?
I mean, obviously, as a product owner, you cannot always be friend with anyone or everyone in the company. So at one point, if you have a managerial role, you have to let go someone, and that's always a tough situation. So if something comes up and you see it's not going to work, then you have to clear it up. And of course, good communication or good communication skills can help. So that's sometimes a bit the problem, because a lot of product managers, they're coming from the developer side, like myself, and it is said that developers have not that great communication skills.
That's true.
So you can learn on that, and to be a good citizen to your colleagues and stuff, and then it's easier to communicate in an open way, so you still be friends also afterwards. And also for me the worst thing is more like when you realize your product won't fly. So you spend half a year on a project.
That's true.
And then suddenly you realize, okay, we have no clients, or it's really slow ramping up. It's not going to work when you pull the string. So you say, okay, now it's finished. You have to stop it, because your product is like a baby, so it's dying and it's really crazy. So that's for me the worst thing, because I started a lot of ideas, and as I said, half of them didn't plan out as expected, and that's hard, because then also the team dissolves somehow, and there's a lot of difficult things going on.
Absolutely. That's true. Like as you said, a product is like our baby, and we really never want to let go, and it also kind of blinds us from taking the decision of pulling the string sometimes, even though it's burning a lot of money and not really making sense. Yeah,
that's
awesome. Thanks a lot for answering all these questions very seriously. So right now I'm moving to a little bit chill questions, like something that we can laugh about. A fun segment, if I'd like to call that. So these couple of questions. So first one is, so let's say you have $1 million today to invest into a particular industry. So there are a lot of industries in technology. There is medtech, there is insurtech, there is health tech, there is fintech. A lot of industries, like as you said, the business that's booming. So if you had $1 million right now, what industry would you invest in, and why?
So that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Industry. I would always say the other way around. You have to look what are your expertise and where you can build something. Because if you desperately want something for the fintech market but have no connections or no knowledge there, it will probably not fly, and you waste your time.
That's true.
Because every industry has a lacking niche. And of course, it's also region dependent. We are in Switzerland, we probably have other roadblocks than in the US or in India. So it's, I think you can always find something. But I would take a look at those industries perhaps which are not that digital yet. There, of course, you have the biggest opportunity. And I don't know in India, but for example, in Switzerland, it's more like the construction business, like building houses. Building houses or constructing is really done very old-fashioned. Basically, I mean, there's no modular way or not even, I mean, you build a house, then you make windows in it. I mean, you could pre-build the walls, make it modular, you can make it configurable. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities there, but of course it's very complicated because it's a big industry and big contract. So it's probably not that easy to get in, but there I see a lot of potential, like for digitizing the business.
So you'll put your $1 million into the construction industry, building something there, if you had the opportunity.
Probably not. Yeah, probably not. But yeah, I mean, I have a friend of mine who is in the cement or concrete business. So basically, his family has a cement factory. So he has big knowledge on how to produce cement, and now he's doing like AI to optimize the process. So basically he uses AI to optimize the process, because when concrete is basically, or cement is basically a natural product. You put stuff, sand from places, so it's always a bit different. But at the end you need a specified
mix, concrete mix.
Because you want to build like a tower or something. And then you put a lot of reserve on it, because you never know if the sand is lower quality, so you have to make it a bit better, and because of that, because you put all these reserves into it, the product gets expensive and CO2 is exploding. So he makes like an AI process to reduce it to the limit he has allowed to, and that's the way forward.
That's interesting, definitely. Yep.
So I will put $1 million there.
Awesome, fantastic. Okay, now one more thing. So let's say you had an opportunity to make a phone call to your younger self, like say 15 years back or 10 years back. So what would be your one message that you want to convey to your younger version that would help you as a developer or a product manager? So what would be that one message that you wish you look back and tell your younger self through a phone call?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, as I said, communication is really strong. I mean, invest in that and don't think, okay, I'm just a developer. My big boss is handling everything. So you really learn communicating, and also set expectation early, especially as a developer or if you start a project. I mean, a lot of things are still up in the air and everyone has his dream in his head, but you as a developer basically have to write it down and make it a product and box it. And it's really sometimes difficult or to make the real thing. So also fear to say no. No fear to say no. So if something is not possible, just say it and discuss it out. Know your price and communicate it. So tell, okay, development costs some money, so you cannot do it for free. Yeah. And also don't just look at the technical stuff. I mean, I always do it like this when I plan a product. I mean, there's one meeting, for example, for UX, where we discuss how the product looks like and is working. And then we have like a separate meeting where we really discuss the business side. So how can we make money with this? How our customers, how much they pay over time, and so on. So that's the thing I would
fantastic. I think that's something that all of us should know. All of us should do as developers and product managers, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. So awesome. That was fantastic, Michael. It was a great session. So it was great. I think the users will definitely be excited to hear all of this. And it's definitely useful to me as well. When I think of it, I could relate to a lot of things you shared about, mistakes that I made early on in my career, and still some mistakes that I'm making. I think definitely it's a lesson for me too as well, to adopt to some of the practices. And also it's interesting to learn that construction industry is something that's really a lot to look at. It gives a new perspective as well. So thank you for your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
for spending your morning with me.
Great. It was a great time. Thank you very much for having me on board.
Awesome.